independent television for the North East. It was an entirely new concept, but during 1958, everyone got to hear about it. 2 large warehouses on City Road in Newcastle were converted into state-of-the-art studios. Then, on January the 15th, 1959, the opening night.
TTTV Television, Channel 8.
About it is a page in the traffic along. Nowhere could you get that happy feeling when you are stealing that extra far.
That first show, produced by the first programme controller Bill Lyons Shaw, did not go entirely smoothly. Top of the bill, Dickie Henderson cancelled because of illness, and his replacement, comedian Jimmy James, only just made it through heavy traffic.
And what better to start with than, yes, the one and only, your great favourite, yes, Jimmy James.
Cause it's witchcraft, wicked witchcraft.
Many artists new to TV appeared in the big show, including singer George Romain.
When you arouse the need in me.
Can't ever remember why Bill Lyons Shaw chose us to sing in a duet a song called Witchcraft. If you know the lyrics of that, which I won't repeat, very embarrassing. 2 fellas singing Witchcraft.
'Cause there's no nicer guy.
Ricky Price, on the left, was hardly seen again, but George Romain became one of the best-known and best-loved entertainers of his day. Tyne Tees were transmitting daytime TV before anyone else. George Romain starred in many of the 1200 editions of the light entertainment 1 o'clock show. Sadly, not a single show survives today, but among other regulars were the hugely popular Barry sisters.
Don't be a spoil sport, please play the game.
The enthusiasm was wonderful. It was new. It was our Geordie television station, and there was a tremendous amount of expertise and talent around at that time, and we were just glad to be part of it.
For the technical staff, those pioneering days were hard work, but hugely enjoyable.
In the first year, everybody did everything, and there was so much work to do. You know, we used to come in at 8 in the morning and work till whenever we finished at night time, and it was a super atmosphere because everyone was young. I mean, there wasn't anybody, I don't think, in production over about 30, 32. There was massive enthusiasm, and again, it was all live.
Everybody just loved what they were doing, and they wanted to do it well. And cynicism hadn't sort of crept into it at that time because everything was so new, and we thoroughly enjoyed it.
Each morning, I'd look out of the window, and if it was raining, snowing, sunshine, windy, whatever, I really wanted to get to work, to the fun factory.
One of the early Tyne Tees presenters was a young man whose career was to become synonymous with TV here in the North East.
Television was comparatively new then, and we, most of us, were new to television. So we were all learning at the same time, and it was marvellous fun. It's a business now. It was great fun then. We all made our own mistakes regularly, and it was marvellous.
Where ships are born and saints were buried. This is the fame of the Weir.
Back in those days, Mike wasn't confined to the studios, but his producer proved to be a hard taskmaster.
We do a full day's filming, walking around and stepping over streams and rivers and what have you. And then he would get me back here in time to do my evening continuity shift. So they were very long days, and no extra money, you know.
As the 1960s progressed, more serious programmes were the order of the day, and Tyne Tees pulled off a notable royal scoop.
Good evening. Our guest in Face the Press tonight has flown up here especially from London in order to take part in the programme. And he is His Royal Highness Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh. Prince Philip, you must have many television invitations much nearer home. Why, in fact, have you accepted this one?
Well, I was very flattered by the invitation and the letter, which seemed to imply that the people living in this part of the country felt that they were slightly away from the centre of things, and the idea of this series was to make them feel that they were part of the whole business. And if I could by taking part, by coming here, if I could help to make people feel less out on a limb, I'd be delighted to do it.
You would have been the first to label me as Bossy Boots. You would have been the first to say she's anti-European. I hope I am neither. I hope I am reasonable.
On the news front, film cameramen travelled throughout the northeast, providing footage of a region often ignored by the cinema newsreels.
Oh, God. He's blown up.
And throughout the turbulent changes of the 1960s, programmes like Northeast Roundabout and Today at 6 chronicled the changing landscape. The region played host to many distinguished visitors.
You're honoring me today in this very meaningful way is of inestimable value for the continuance of my humble efforts.
In 1968, the station said goodbye to its old black and white transmissions and launched an assault on the brave new world of colour.
50,000 Roman troops landed on the Channel coast of Britain. There was no opposition.
2 years later, a powerful new transmitter at Bilsdale meant Tyne Tees pictures could be seen from Berwick in the north to Selby in the south. VIPs and celebrities continued to flock to the northeast. 1977 was a typical year. The Queen was here as part of her Silver Jubilee celebrations. Muhammad Ali's wedding was blessed at the mosque in South Shields. Then he called in at the local boxing club. And US President Jimmy Carter knew just what to say when he visited Washington, Tyne and Wear.
How are the lads?
In the 80s, the power of local news produced a phenomenal response to send aid to famine-hit Ethiopia in the People's Boat. As cameras moved from film to video, the Queen Mother arrived for the station's 30th birthday. And all the while, the Tyne Tees archive was building up an invaluable history of the changing fortunes of the Northeast. Unemployment soared, and out of a wilderness on Teesside emerged promises of a new dawn. News cameras recorded the start of the great inward investment hope for the region, and years later bore witness as world markets doomed some of the new arrivals to closure. There was more bad news as crime increased.
The vast majority of opinion is that you've got to be very careful in terms of legalising drugs. Where do you stop in terms of that legalisation?
Between May and June of 1987, 121 Teesside children were diagnosed as abuse victims and taken into care.
Out of the jaws of death
out of the mouth of hell.
The fire started during an electrical storm. Soon the roof of the south transept was collapsing, leaving a mound of molten lead and burnt-out oak beams, disturbed for the first time since the 13th century.
The scares we've had other time died down. I'm not saying a 5-day wonder, but they did sort of take care of themselves later on. But this one's not going to go away so quickly.
Almost 6 hours of blazing mayhem finally drew to a close as firemen damped down the flames at around 2 o'clock this morning, leaving the city to count the cost of a night no one wants to remember.
But regional news has always been characterised by the strange, the quirky and the downright eccentric. Television news has changed beyond recognition in the past 4 decades. Today, digital and satellite technology ensures it a sparkling future.